first major step in this final project was a macro-environmental analysis. Before we could perform a macro-environmental analysis, we had to go through the company's background and a goal statement summary. The first step of this process was curating articles about the company's background. We found articles about basic, essential information, like their competitive advantage, their business strategy, financial moves like trying to spin Old Navy off into its own publicly traded company. We found information from Gap's website itself. We found company's financials from websites like the Wall Street Journal and Yahoo Finance. The next portion of this was application. In doing this, we found company history, such as where Gap opened, expansion overseas, and major CEO changes. We found their history in the last 5 years. We went to Gap's website and found their stated vision and mission, company's current objectives, and their current major strategies. We found pertinent financial information. We found their ratios, debt to equity, liquidity. We took these ratios and applied them to describe Gap's current financial health. We found chief direct competitors, top challenges facing the firm. After completing the company background, we moved on to the macro-environmental analysis. The macro-environmental analysis was a steeple analysis. A steeple analysis evaluates macro-environmental forces, in particular socio-cultural factors, technological factors, economic factors, political factors, legal, and environmental factors, and how they impact the industry. Each team member collected 12 articles on these various factors. After we collected all of those articles, we moved on to the application process. In the application process, we looked at the broad environmental forces that affect our company through the industry. We split up the issues so that each team member could analyze one or two of them. We decided the top demographic issues facing the industry were mostly shrinking populations in large metropolitan areas. U.S. population growth is down, and fewer people results in fewer people buying products. Traditionally high-populated areas are experiencing a population decline. These places are typically where the most foot traffic is, and declining population means fewer people in stores. This affects the industry broadly, especially now since most sales are moving online. Remaining stores need to keep foot traffic up in order to keep up. Another demographic issue is children's clothes sales. The millennial generation has been putting off having children more than previous generations, so children's clothes sales are down because there are fewer children. This demographic issue affects retailers in that younger generations prefer to use their phones and shop online, which presents a challenge to brick-and-mortar retailers who haven't quite developed online marketplaces. We decided the top psychographic issues facing the retail industry include things like frequent attitude changes. Since information delivery is rapid with social media and the internet, influencers have a lot of power over consumer decision making. Attitudes change frequently because of how quickly the information is delivered to the consumer. Trends shift at a quicker pace, and because of this, retailers need to keep up by using psychographic data to stay on top of consumers' attitudes via Twitter and other platforms. This does not just affect the clothing retail industry, however. Most industries have been affected by the instantaneous delivery of opinions from people on social media. Companies need to keep up with their social media accounts to answer and correct consumers' concerns and questions. This does provide an upside, though, as a great opportunity to excel in customer service. This could also give a company a better brand image. We decided that the major economic factors facing the clothing/fashion retail industry are mostly the stock market as a whole. Technological advancement creates new markets, new opportunities for investors, and pushes companies to grow. Gap needs to maximize opportunities for profits for their shareholders in order to stay ahead in the market. Gap also needs to keep up with technological trends and move out of the brick-and-mortar marketplace and into an online marketplace. The global economy greatly affects the retail industry. Overseas tariffs greatly affect the retail industry as well. Overseas markets play a large role in the clothing retail industry, Since many of the products are produced overseas, importing and exporting of goods adds great costs to a company. Tariffs on exporting and importing can hurt or help a company depending on which way they go. In terms of political and legal issues facing the industry, they're pretty similar to most industries' issues in this category. Many of the issues tie back in with each other. Government regulations and laws create a roadblock for companies to overcome. They also create an opportunity for a company to excel. Given that 2020 is also an election year, the political issues facing the retail industry are the outlook on a new president and whether that president will create laws to help or hurt the industry. Most of the environmental issues facing the industry have to do with sustainability. The environmental issues facing the industry tie back in with the legal issues and also the political issues. Governments make laws to limit emissions and make industries more eco-friendly. These laws affect costs, but they also affect consumer happiness. Consumers nowadays are more likely to go with a company that uses green practices, a company that's more environmentally aware. Companies' levels of eco-friendliness can greatly affect consumers' attitudes towards that company. At this point, each team member ranked their top 5 macro-environmental issues based on their impact on the industry. After this, we reduced all of these issues into 5 to 8 major issues facing the industry specifically. We ranked technology as the biggest issue. Due to the increase in online shopping, technological advancements are needed to keep remaining storefronts relevant and enhance the online experience from a customer service and inventory standpoint. The second biggest issue is demographics. Since Gap is a primarily fashion or clothing brand in store, it's pretty obvious that they will have to adapt and change their styles and clothing as everyone's preferences change as well. The third is environmental. Given that people are beginning to shop at earth-friendly places, consumers are becoming more concerned with the amount of waste and pollution that a company emits. Fourth is sociocultural. We agreed the recent shift from a primarily mall-oriented marketplace to an online one creates a problem in the retail industry especially. The fifth issue we ranked was an economic issue. Given that it's an election year, this issue is more pertinent than most. New presidents can affect new regulations which increase or lower costs and change investors' outlooks on a company. At 6, we ranked political. Similar to the economic issue we ranked before it, the new election year brings on new laws and regulations. At 7th, we have psychographics. The massive millennial generation is having many impacts on clothing retailers. Many of these issues relate to the shift to an online marketplace. That is where Gap and many clothing retail companies like JCPenney are struggling. Millennials prefer to shop online, and they're waiting later to have kids, which lowers kids' clothing sales. 7th issue we ranked was psychographics. This is another issue that has to do with the shift to the online marketplace. Millennials prefer online shopping, decreasing foot traffic in stores, and contributing to the struggling malls. And millennials are waiting longer to have kids, which affects sales in the kids' clothing departments. Millennials are also marrying later in life. Typically, married couples have more expendable income for clothing. The last issue we ranked was technology. Since we live in a world now where more than ever technology advances every day, companies all around the world will be affected, especially Gap, one of the larger clothing retailers. Gap will need to keep up with these advancements to stay relevant.